Alright, greetings and welcome to this video on Geeks First. Today, while I have a pink binder and a pink visor, this is not a financial conversation. Instead, this is actually something that I've been wanting to do for a while. And what that conversation is the dichotomy of how cards go from the flesh and blood development section, at least my understanding of it, into the packs that you open. And as everyone keeps talking about the prices of cards and how things are becoming weirdly unsustainable, I think LSS has positioned themselves to... I can show it better on a whiteboard here. That's why I'm in front of a whiteboard. This is my new backdrop for a whiteboard. Yay, whiteboard videos! But I'm going to be able to showcase how the new product lines, from armory decks to gym packs and supplemental sets, or I should say just sets in general, are going to set things up for a cadence that you've never seen before. So let's dive in and talk about that right now. Now, I'm going to put away my pink visor because I'm not going to be wearing that today. But as I flip through my binder and I kind of look at all of the heroes and classes that are in front of me, there's this ongoing question in my head of, as the game grows, we are on set 15, which is what's coming out, the Hunted, right? That's right on the doorstep of where we are. (101). Okay. In Fab Distribution, we're going to discuss a couple of interesting things. So, in the game of Flesh and Blood, because I've lost all of my marbles, you have heroes, and I just grabbed a random stack. This is from Heavy Hitters. Hey, absolute fantastic set. So, when you look at the design of cards, you have to start thinking of how cards impact other cards, and how cards can be intermixed or restricted. At least this is all my understanding. I do not work for LSS. This disclosure is just me, a guy sitting in front of a whiteboard, standing in front of a whiteboard. I'm not sitting. If I was sitting, I'd be way down here, and you'd be like, hey, I'm here. That's not how this works. My backdrop is literally right behind all this. Like, everything that I typically have is all right in here. I'm like between the board. But this is my ghetto solution to demonstrate this. So, in the world here, we're going to start with the biggest bubble that I can think of. And that bubble is the class bubble. Okay, so a class in Flesh and Blood is like ninja, is like warrior, is like mechanologist, is like brute, is like guardian. These individual classes exist within this. So let's type guardian. And then mechanologist. And then maybe like warrior. And then ninja. And assassin, maybe? Yes, it is. Spell check? I don't know if I spelled that right. But anyways, you get the idea. So you have classes. Now, in around the Monarch era, they introduced something which is called talents. Now, talents are an overlay on top of the classes. So, today, we might have a draconic ninja. We might have a royal assassin. We might have some sort of special talented mech to be determined. We don't, but it'd be cool if we did. So the talents overlay on top of that. So when you're playing the game of Flesh and Blood, you build your deck based on a requirement. So this sword here, Centauri Saber, is a warrior weapon, meaning it can only be used by a warrior. Can't be used by guardian, can't be used by a ninja, can't be used by assassin, can't be used by mech. This mandible claw, it is a brute weapon. Again, no guardian, no here. Oh, well, brute's not even on my board. Sorry, I'm forgetting the brute love. Holy moly, brutes are going to be mad at me. We're going to put brutes over here. B-R-U-T-E. Again, this is not the comprehensive class. There are more There are more classes. I'm not going to go into everything. So using this, right, we have a guardian weapon right here, this Hyerizer. Now, if we flip these over, there are additional, versions of these. And there are multiple heroes that can be within. So a guardian, we have the heroes. So now the next layer of this puzzle is you have the actual hero itself. And let's say we have Victor. So Victor is a guardian. And then you also have Betsy. And then, for sake of argument, we have Reinar. And then we also have KO. And then let's go ahead and say for Warrior, we got Olympia. And then we have Kasai. So we have some examples of some heroes on there. Now, from the ninja side, we can talk about Fai, F-A-I. That's an older hero. We have the new ones from the Hunted. I need to pull up their names. All right, we're going to throw a couple of new heroes on here. Syndra. So I don't obviously have that because the set's not out yet. But Syndra is a Royal Draconic Ninja. So under here we have Royal Draconic. And then the hero is Syndra. Now, if you were to draw a circle using my blue, Syndra can use Draconic, Ninja, and Royal cards. Fai can only use, because Fai is a Draconic Ninja, Fai can only use the Ninja Draconic card pool. So it's restricted further. And that's interesting because when you look at the design of a card, if we pick on the new Kunai of Retribution, which is the new dagger that just came out, it's a once per turn action. Destroy this when the combat chain ends. Go again. It's a Draconic Ninja weapon. Now, because it's a Draconic Ninja weapon, that means that Fai, who is a Draconic Ninja, and Syndra, who is a Draconic and Royal Ninja, can use that weapon. So they've been able to lock it down within further to that hero base, or that card pool impacts those heroes. And by the way, the reason I'm explaining this part first is because the distribution or explanation of like generic cards, which I don't have on here, so I'm going to use purple and say the generic boys, G-E-N-E-R-I-C, generic man. So generic cards go for any class. And generics are awesome because since they can go for any class, they encompass everything, which means they have to be uniquely positioned. Now, if I go back and I take a look at some of the newer Blitz decks, this one. Okay, so I pulled out a new Blitz deck. This is one of the Blitz decks you can purchase. And new is a Mystic Assassin Hero. So we talked about talents. Again, I'm just adding a few here. I don't want to add everything, but Mystic. M-Y-S-T-I-C. Now, in the pool for this, you can use straight Mystic talent to say anybody who is Mystic can use this. But at the moment, there's, in part the Mistveil at least, there were 3 Mystic heroes. There was a Ninja, there was a Assassin, and golly gee, an Illusionist was the third one, because I don't play Illusionist. But some other things to think about is there are keywords on the cards, and we're going to start to talk about that. So one of the keywords on the cards that we can look into is, this is a restrictive card. Specialization. Spell check. I think that's a Z. It's supposed to be specialization. Okay, by the way, for those of you that are actually watching at this point, you can probably very much realize right now my spelling is horrible. It is not my #1 strength. So just as a FYI for you who are going to make fun of me. All right, so we talked about legendary. C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, legendary. We talked about, there is another fun one that's it's only used very little right now, but it is universal. That is another really interesting keyword that they could use more of. Universal. We have...
Okay, barrier, that's not restrictive. Channel charge, clash, flow, contract, tank, crash, decompose. Heal, upgrade, flow, freeze, fusion, galvanize, gulligan, guardrail, heal, heavy, intimidate, legendary mark. Modular, legendary was the one. Overpower, phantasmal, piercing, protect, reload, specialization, tower, unity, reward. Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about a little bit of the keywords. Now, some things that are interesting when we're to this point. So we have heroes, classes, talents, keywords. So when they want to release a new card, we kind of have to look at it from the grain of, the scope of what it can be affected. And we're just going to pick on one of the new cards. I'm randomly scrolling. This is completely random. We are going to pick on, for the Empire, for the Realm, and for the Drakai, because there are 3 cards. So, these 3 cards are Draconic actions. Now, looking at our little board here, who can use those cards? Well, Guardian could use those cards if they had a talent of Draconic, but they don't. So on our current ecosystem of where it exists, which is not a comprehensive list, according to our board, the only person on this is the ninja who's Draconic would be able to use the Draconic card. So that's how they restricted that. It means that the mechanologist can't use that card to do some crazy combo or trick that they couldn't do. Now, looking at another card from this set, Rolling Fissure. It's a Guardian action, right? That is Guardian. Yep, Guardian. So the Guardian action is going to be used by Guardian, which means both Victor and Betsy and the aforementioned or not aforementioned brand new Jarl, video coming soon on that, is going to be able to use that card. Now, Retrace the Past. This card is specific. I want to talk about it. If I can, Jacob, editing Jake, put the Retrace the Past photo here. Retrace the Past, which should be over my face, is a Katsu specialization with the word combo that says when this attacks, doesn't make a difference what it says. Just we're talking about the card placement within the ecosystem, not the functionality of the card. But it is a ninja card. Now, interestingly enough, ninja as the class, right, the bubble of ninja, there are heroes within that. So now we're going to add a new hero to the mix, Katsu. Katsu. Now, Katsu, who is this specific hero, has this Katsu specialization, a key word. Specialization, meaning can be used by only that person. So it says, Katsu specialization may have this in your deck only if your hero is the named hero, or in this case, Katsu. So because the specialization is a Katsu, now it can be in Katsu's deck. Now, there are also legendary specializations, because that means that the deck building, and this is where formats come into play. I know we haven't talked about formats, but we have the format bubble over here. You have CC, you have Blitz, BLITZ. Then you have UPF, which these here really use 2 cards. These use 3 cards. We're gonna ballpark it down to the. I mean, we're gonna say commoner too, because we're not gonna omit commoner. Commoner's important. So things that are important about this, right? Now you start getting into other aspects of the cards that become restrictors. So commoner is a rarity level. So you have Fabled, Marvel, which really Marvel. It's kind of like that's an S special one. You got legendaries, you got majestics, you got rares, you got commons, you have tokens. So in commoner, the restriction there is that you're only allowed to use commons and tokens, with the exception of a couple of rares for your weapon slot. But in Blitz and Classic Constructed, you can use any of these, right? So there are format restrictions within these. But then you have another restrictor over here, which is the number of copies of those cards, which then starts getting into the statistical side of how you start looking at if you build an 80-card deck, because the deck size, so you have deck size, so you have CC, and then you have Blitz, which I believe is now 52 asterisk. I think that's right. I'm going off of memory here. But these deck sizes start to get into why when you layer the classes and the heroes and the talents and the formats and the deck sizes and the restrictions with the different things, you can start to create cards that fix certain problems but don't impact other areas. And then we get into the monster in the room that no one wants to talk about, which is the BNR list, the bans and the restricts. This is not Thousand Eyes restricts from Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I do really like that card. But what this is talking about, more specifically, is when somebody has to ban and restrict a card, such as my very much favorite from the Mechanologist class here. We have our, nope, not Maximum Velocity. I lied. That's an incorrect statement. High Octane. And then we also had Tome of Findel, which these are two cards that are near and dear to me because they were part of my mech class. But we don't really need to, I'm not harping on this. This is not saying this was bad or over-decided, but when you start banning cards, right, you change, you shift the whole balance. Imagine this like as a spinning top, balanced on a fine point. On the tip of this, everything is rotating, and you're balancing. And when people talk about the word meta and different things like that, you're balancing the reactions of all of these unique types of cards and interactabilities within something. So maybe like if you start in the center and then you make a new card and it really leans toward the, because the set right now is really leaning toward the assassin, right? It's going this direction. And it's also leaning more toward the warrior, which is this direction, right? And then the other one is really leaning toward the ninja. So right now, the tipper, we're tipping in the direction of the warrior, ninja, and assassin. So we're coming this direction with it. And to counteract some of that, the expansion slot, now we're into the meat and potatoes, folks. Thanks for being here. I don't know how long we're in, but we are here, and we're here to stay till the end. But the meat and potatoes of this is the ways to get cards. Now, before 2025, this was a different approach. You had a very limited amount of options. You had boosty boxes. You had these bad boys right here. These are called booster boxes. These are the core bread and butter of the game Flesh and Blood. So you had booster boxes. All right, so you had booster boxes. That was one way to get cards into the game. And that was honestly the primary vehicle of getting cards in the game. Then you had blitz decks. All right, so you had blitz decks. Now, the new additions to this came in the form of, we now have armory decks. So now we have armory decks. We used to have promos, which we'll put an asterisk there, because now a new thing that they are introducing, which I'm going to still use the blue here, is gym packs. So the whole reason I made this video, by the way, I was diving down this gym packs. I know this is chicken scratch, so you're having to listen. I'm just trying to do this for visual for me to keep track of all this. The gym packs are a whole new way for us to get product. You have the armory decks, a whole new way to get products. Now you also have something else called the expansion slot. And the expansion slot is, like I was just talking about with the Rolling Fisher and the Retrace the Past. This came out in Bright Lights was the first one where they reprinted Tunic. So a lot of people right now are saying that like cards like Command and Conquer and Tunic and some of these other generics. Let me take a look. I bet you if I go to TCG Player and go by the most expensive, highest selling cards right now, that they are mostly generics. I would put money on it. Sink Below is definitely up there. But let's take a gander at the not high to low best selling. All right, best selling. Command and Conquer is $100 as of the filming of this video. Enlightened Strike is $44 as of the filming of this video. Looks like other cards have gone up. Warmonger's Diplomacy, $80. Codex of Frailty. Codex of Frailty is $80. Crown of Providence is $93, but that's a legendary. We'll come back to that. And the weakest link is $50. Tome of Imperial Flame is $70. Command and Conquer from History Pack 1 is $85. Just a Nick is $17. I'm not going to go any further than that on the first page here, but that was a good general summary. Now, what was the most common thing about all those cards? Generic. Generic, generic, generic. Generic, 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 generic. How many times do I say it? Generic. Command and Conquer, Light and Strike. Codex. No, Codex is not a generic, sorry. The Weakest Link and Warmonger's Diplomacy. 4 of those cards were generic. The other 2 are, well, frankly, Assassin and Ranger. Assassin is coming up in the new set. Tome of Imperial Flame. Draconic. We talked about that new set. Draconic, right? Woo woo! So the cards that are up to the top, and then a Plow Under is pretty expensive too, but that's an Earth action. That was from the latest set, Rosetta, which is, honestly, the value of the cards. It's not a bad thing that these have value. Like, the value is important. It's a part of the game. Sloop Dupe did a good video on that where he talked about the value. It's actually, I scrapped my whole video because Sloop was doing something and he did it 10 times better. So congrats to you, Sloop. You did it excellent. No sense in trying to reinvent the wheel. Just watch his video. Go give him a sub and a like because he is doing it great. I love editing-ish, but God blessed. I'm trying to learn DaVinci Resolve, and woohoo! Boy, it's like, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time learning it, so I keep going back to Premiere, and Premiere is restricting my creative juices digitally. So, anyways, back on topic here, ways to get cards. Now, there are lead times associated with this, right? So, Flesh and Blood releases a roadmap, and those roadmaps talk about the releases coming up in the upcoming 6 months, year. Sometimes they go a little bit further out. I don't think they've ever really given us more than about a year. But when you start looking at, again, the promos that might come when you, like the upcoming set, those promos are not necessarily brand new cards. However, there are examples like Blaze, where Blaze came out as a promo. Blaze is only available right now that I'm aware of as of the filming of this as a promo. The only way to get that is there. The Ira Hero, which... funny enough, I was sorting through some cards, or I got it from somebody. I don't know how I managed to get a hold of it. It was kind of funny. Where is it? It's the cutest little thing ever. Because it's a good way to still play. Oh my gosh, did I lose it? I didn't lose it, did I? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, it's gone. Oh no, where'd it go? I think I pulled it out to like talk about it, and now I don't know where I shoved it. Ruh-roh, wacky! Tricks are for kids! Oh, man. Anyways, it's a printed copy of Ira Scarlet Revenger, because the only way to get it is a promo. Now, I have one, but if I wanted to go me against somebody else... Thanks, Pokemon. I'll open a pack later. If I wanted to go against somebody else, I have to have, or at least something for them to stare at, because it needs the hero ability, so that... It's gone. Where is it? Oh my gosh. My demo prototype. Oh, I shoved it way over there. So, boop. If this was magnetic, I would be putting cards on here, but I did not buy the mag. This is a 4x8 sheet that I cut down, and I'm hanging from a ceiling. So, excellent. But Ira, Scarlet Revenger, currently is a promo. Hopefully that will be rectified, possibly even in the gym packs. So let's talk about that, right? So let's talk about the route for cards to come to us. The longest approach, the longest runway, the 747 of the fab world is booster boxes. Those have to be designed, collated, and finished product probably 6 months to a year in advance. And the reason I would imagine that is a true statement, in my head, again, I have no proof of this, but the reason I believe that to be a true statement is because those sets are designed because they're looking a year down the road. They say, hey, I want to add, like, let's say we want a new class, right? How can we introduce, we're gonna talk about how can we put in Necromancer. So how could we put in Necromancer? Well, Necromancer could be put in if Necromancer is a talent, or it could be put in if it's a class. But in order to do that, you have to have a delivery mechanism for that. So it could be in a booster box where you have existing sets. So let's go back to when Outsiders came in, right? Assassin was originally brought in via Dynasty, And then Outsiders brought Assassin back with Ranger and Ninja. So Outsiders was a way to bring that set to not fully flush out, to really flush out the whole class of Assassin. And then from there, Assassin's been kind of getting its own help. And obviously this new set right now is going to be Assassin oriented. If we look at 15 sets in, right? Supplemental sets are kind of a way of the dodo bird, but they're not really needed because we have more avenues now. You have blitz decks, you have booster boxes, you have armory decks, you have promos, you have gym packs, which can really be loaded with whatever product you want to change and tip this scale in any direction that you feel fit. And as we look at, again, back to the booster boxes here, the booster boxes are going to have we'll talk about heavy hitters, the classes. This was 3 classes, 6 heroes, 2 of each one. So it's very well balanced between the way this worked out. And then when you look at an armory deck is a singular, so I have in front of me here, this is the KO version, right? This is a singular hero. And inside of that, you can introduce new cards that have never been printed somewhere else. So this is a delivery mechanism that could be done at not instant speed, but at fairly quick-ish speed to bring in cards like, Hide Tanner and Savage Sash, right? These are different ways you can bring cards into the ecosystem to tip the scales and let people have either reprints to bring cards down in price. Looking at the Jarl deck, right? Jarl had its first official legendary in the set. Now, interesting enough with Jarl, right? Because you buy Jarl as an entire box, the fact that it's legendary is probably only for another reason down the road that I don't have the foresight that Fab has to see it. Because technically the Majestics in that box are the same rarity as the legendary, but the items that are contained within that, also dictate some of, Jarl got some pretty cool toys, which also improve the Guardian gameplay. But they did release, the legendary is an Earth, Ice, Guardian equipment. So that's Earth, Ice, Guardian. 3 criteria to play this card. And that means that those 3 are requirements. Now, if you look at old him, he's an older hero from the Tales of Aria yesteryear. He is an Earth, an Ice, and a Guardian. So technically, he, I believe, could use this as well. It does not say restrict to only Jarl, which was a nice addition. So it kind of also bolstered older heroes. Now, there was Crumble to Eternity. Crumble to Eternity was a specialization. It was a specialization specific to Jarl, meaning it was only for him. Now, going back, I'm going to try to do a quick search while I'm talking so I don't have to edit the video, but I want to find cards that are legendary. And cards, most of the Fableds, oh, that's a great example. I had the deck out earlier. So any of the cheese from the part the Mistveil that were Mystic, they are legendary, meaning that they have only 1 per deck, per constructed deck. Now, legendary is a nice keyword to help restrict down to let you have access. The Angels are also this. I forgot about the Angels, but I was thinking of Imperial Edict, Imperial Ledger, Imperial Warhorn. Those are generic items, but they have the legendary keyword, so you can only use 1 of them. Most of the Fableds are going to be legendary. Another really nice one is Regicide. I do want to call that out. I have an extended art of it over there. But the legendary Arachne specialization. So it actually is a legendary. It calls out specifically the hero, specialization for Arachne, and you can only have 1 of them in the deck. But that card, because of the fact that it kind of hunts after royal cards, it's thematic, it makes sense. So you can tie the lore. We're going to add lore in here, right? That's another cool keyword. We can add the lore with little hearts here, because this is the lore can drive the story, kind of like the Tech Levasan, and the Dash and how Data Doll, so I know a lot more about those, but the lore also can dictate some of this stuff. So all of these things together are what makes Flesh and Blood great. I should probably start the video with that and then circle back to the front. Boo boo! Yeah, so I don't know where to go from here other than this. This helps me know that the booster boxes are like a 747 landing. They're a long runway, so when they come out with cards that they want to help shape the meta for the future, they're probably going to go in booster boxes. If you need a quick fix or a somewhat bolster to help tip the scale back to like Mechanologist got one, but maybe Ranger, maybe Azalea. Well, Azalea got one, so I don't know. Maybe Guardian. Well, Guardian just got one too. Holy crap! Who would get one? It's a good one. That's a good one. I don't know. So, okay, they make a new armory deck. They can introduce new heroes. They can tip the scale back for them, introduce new cards. But the armory decks probably have a little bit shorter. Maybe not. Maybe they have the same care and caress. But I would imagine that logistically, getting a single armory deck together that is a static product and not randomized is probably a little bit easier than a booster box. Now, promos, right? Promos, when they get printed, they're coming out at events or as participation prizes. And they used to be the promos would be for your armories. And that's how they would help give, not really new cards. It would always be reprints or special editions of that. So now that promos are not really, I mean, I don't know how that's going to go going forward. They're probably still going to be cool remakes of it. But really, the Blitz decks, again, are options to throw new cards in, like the Mentors for having Mentors for young heroes. But the expansion slot is key, I think, because that ties into the booster boxes. But because that lags about let's say the meta shifts or some hero living legends, some of their living legend points has really changed. So again, another, defining factor here is the living legend system. And the LL system really is, at the end of the day, the most defining factor behind how heroes come and go, right? Because you can have the core classes and they'll exist forever, which is, I think, where the term is, marry your class, love your hero, or something of that effect. But, Dash IE, Inventor Extraordinaire, is probably on her way out. But Dash IO is brand new, just starting out. So I would say, those key components help bring stuff in. But these gym packs, because they're coming out once per set, they really, I would imagine, could filter in cards that are needed. If there's a reprint of a card like Command and Conquer, maybe that becomes the creme de la creme of the card in that pack. Or it's one of 30 options with a low pull rate, kind of like the drops for when you win a gold foil, right? There are ways to art restrictions or art reprint list, right? Because you have the reprint policy. With, rainbow foil. Maybe there's an art reprint policy. So these are my brain going over all the different things that are here. But there are plenty of ways for you to get in the game. There are plenty of things for you to play. I think all the different events and heroes and stuff like that are doing great. I enjoy trying to figure out their mathematics behind this, how they figure things out. But this is how I would say the fab distribution of cards, not distro as in distro to get cards from me. That's a whole nother video I want to talk about. But this distribution of cards on how you can enjoy your class that you enjoy, that's right there. That's what this is. This is the map. I'm going to make my cool thumbnail now. So. Okie dokie. Well, thank you for tuning in and listening to this video. I greatly appreciate everything you've done. Hopefully you like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell because we're going to be doing other videos like this. This video will take place of the Geek Speak cast for this week. And yeah, very much enjoy you letting me put all this out there in the ethos. Do you have any thoughts, comments, other ideas? I'd love to dive into this stuff. Like when Bronson did his whole discovery of like the back of the card and did some stuff like that. The deep thought that goes into some of that really makes me like, think of how, right, there's all these symbols for these classes and there's 4, 8, 12, 16 classes, but we're not actually up to 16 classes. And I don't know if that was just a design aesthetic or if there was a grander plan and longer. Maybe there's 16 total classes, but there's a lot of stuff to do. Oh, and in the future, I have a really cool thing when you look for the surprise in the backdrop that came from Bronson. So thank you, sir. Yeah, enjoy, have fun, happy New Year, and look forward to all of the upcoming things for The Hunted. I will see you in the future. Thank you.